What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC football channel. We now have our updated power rankings for Week 7 of the college football season as it continues to fly by and things starting to heat up in the SEC. We had Florida versus Auburn this past week, Florida versus LSU this coming week, Alabama versus Texas A&M. Down the line, we'll have Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU. We were going to find out who is going to get through this SEC this season and make it to the SEC championship. Will it be Georgia and Alabama like it's been the last year? We'll see. Maybe Florida or LSU jump in there and shake things up. But number 14 in our power rankings is Arkansas. They did not play this past weekend, and the argument between Arkansas and Tennessee is who had the worst loss. So Tennessee loses to Georgia State, Arkansas loses to San Jose State. Which of those two teams is worse? I don't even know. Looking at the last couple of years, I would say San Jose State is a worse program, but it's pretty close. Texas A&M was competitive at least against Texas A&M, but Tennessee was competitive against BYU. Just flip a coin. Whoever you want to put in last place, Arkansas, Tennessee, doesn't really matter. And, of course, with Arkansas being number 14, that means Tennessee is at number 13. I guess part of this is part of the reason I have Tennessee ahead is just based off of potential. I think Tennessee has the more talented roster. But I don't know. Maybe they don't. I mean, this team has continued to struggle. Yes, they got off to a good start against Georgia, but then the normal Tennessee came out and they got blown out. 43-14 was the final score. And Georgia's a really good team. No one expected Tennessee to compete in that game. I think people were probably really surprised when they saw Tennessee with an early lead in that game. But the Vols do get take another loss there, as they are now 1-4 on the season, and they're not going to a bowl game. Number 12 is Vanderbilt. They're probably not going to a bowl game either. They really needed to win that game against Ole Miss to give themselves a chance. They already have 4 losses, and they still have some tough opponents to play here in the SEC. So I think it's going to be tough for them to get there. They just did not show up here against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a sneaky good team. This team has really improved from week 1 to this point. They've got a Plumlee there at quarterback, has really stepped up for them. A really good runner. So Vanderbilt, I think, is going to struggle to get wins here in the SEC. They've still got Tennessee and Kentucky on the schedule. Those are teams that maybe they can beat. You got South Carolina in there. I mean, there are games that they could pull off, but it's not looking good right now for the Commodores. It's not looking good for Kentucky either. I think this team, if they had not lost Terry Wilson early on, I think they might have at least one more win right now, and you'd be talking about them in maybe the top half of the SEC instead of the bottom half. But it's really gone downhill for the Wildcats. They are 2-3 now, 3 losses, all 3 coming in the SEC, so they're 0-3 in the conference. And Louisville continues to get better, so that's going to be a challenge at the end of the season. So that's why I think it may be tough now for Kentucky to even get to a bowl game, when at one point I thought this team could get to 8-4. So that's a pretty big change there. Number 10 is Mississippi State, another team that we thought looked really good at one point. Then we thought they weren't very good, and right now I don't know. I don't know how good Mississippi State is. They've got LSU coming up in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a big test for them. They are 3-2, still just 1 loss in the conference. I know they were blown out by Auburn, but sometimes you just have a bad game, and I'm not going to completely write off the Bulldogs just yet. Let's see how they bounce back now. They've had a bye week to get some things corrected, get healthy. That could be really big for them. That loss to Kansas State really hurts, though. You go back to that one. Kansas State now not looking as good as we thought they were going to. So Mississippi State is at number 10. South Carolina is at number 9. They are 2-3, coming off a big win a couple of weeks ago. Surprised people by beating Kentucky the way that they did. I thought that was a 50-50 game, but I didn't expect South Carolina to win it convincingly, and they were able to do that. They've still got a really tough schedule the rest of the way. You think the schedule's been tough? Well, it just gets tougher. You still got Clemson on there. You still got Georgia this week. It is a very, very tough schedule for South Carolina, and that's why it's going to be tough for them to make it to a bowl game. But who knows? Maybe they've got an upset in their back pocket. They are starting to play a little bit better now. Ole Miss at number 8. Very nice win over Vanderbilt, 31-6. The game was pretty close early on, but they pull away in the second half. This team is on a roll. They're one of the hotter teams, I think. When you talk about those teams that started the season slow, Ole Miss is a team that's starting to pick it up. They've got 2 wins in the SEC. What's going to hurt them as far as getting to a bowl game is the non-conference losses. The loss to Cal and the loss to Memphis. If you had just an easy non-conference schedule, they would already be bowl eligible because they've got 2 wins in the SEC, but because they played a pretty tough non-conference schedule, they're going to have to win some big games, but I think they might can do it. This team, again, is on a roll. They got a great coaching staff there, by the way, with the new assistants they've added. Number 7 is Texas A&M. They had a bye week this past week. I spent pretty much all offseason telling people that this team was overrated. They were nowhere near a top 10 team. People argued with me, and it looks like I was probably correct, but maybe I'm still wrong. I mean, just 2 losses. It's not like the season's over. They have their opportunity against Alabama this weekend. If they're just competitive in that game, I think that would prove that this Texas A&M team and program has come a long way, and they actually are still really good. And maybe the Arkansas game was a fluke. The other 2 losses to Auburn and Clemson were 2 very good teams. So that's going to be something worth watching. How do they compete against Alabama? Number 6 is Missouri, one of the hotter teams right now. They haven't played the toughest schedule. So we still don't know exactly how good this team is. You go back to week 1, they lost to Wyoming. Is that the real Missouri team? Kelly Bryant went down with an injury, but he should be good to go for this next game, and at least that's what I read. And that's good news for Missouri. But with the bowl ban, I mean, what do they really have to play for? That's the big question. But they are playing better football right now, and some big tests coming up for this Missouri team. We'll see if they can maybe finish the season strong, and who knows, maybe they could get to 10 wins. It's not impossible. Number 5 is Auburn, a very difficult loss against Florida. I was looking at some of the stats. You take out the 2 big plays by Florida, the 2 big touchdowns, and Auburn pretty much completely dominated this game with their defense. Completely took Florida out in the run game, but offensively for Auburn, they just couldn't get it done. Bo Nix turning the football over, and you finally saw him looking like a freshman quarterback in this game. This is still a good team overall, but they can't quite reach championship level until Bo Nix grows up a little bit and improves a little bit. He's just not there yet, and they still have a very difficult schedule ahead of them. But this is a very good defense for Auburn. I still think it's the best defense in the SEC, but I think Florida might have the second best defense in the SEC. They really made it tough on Bo Nix in this game. They were feeding off that crowd, and they were showing why they are still, in my opinion, this is a playoff contender. If they can get by LSU, or even if they lose this game and beat Georgia, they're right there in this thing. Obviously, that's going to be tough to do, but with that defense, they'll have a chance in every game. Kyle Trask is playing pretty well. We'll see how he can handle Death Valley coming up this Saturday. We'll have much more on that game coming up here on the channel this week. But number 3 is Alabama. They had a bye week. How good is the Crimson Tide? I tell you what, you look at the schedule. Who's going to challenge this team? You got LSU at home and Auburn on the road. That's about it. That is about it for Alabama. They have a very easy schedule once again. I hate to see that, though. I mean, I want to see how good really is this team. I don't know if we're going to really find out. Those 2 games, maybe that's not enough. And I talked about this on a totally different video about UCF and how they can get up for these big games. But now when you get into a tougher schedule like they've had this year and you have to do it week in and week out, it catches up to you and you lose some games. So Alabama just riding through that schedule. I don't think they're going to lose this season. And again, this is the team that I picked to win the national championship. And as of now, that's still my pick. So I think they are that good. I'm just making a point about the schedule. Number 2 is Georgia. They are 5-0 now. Win over Tennessee again. They got off to a slow start. I just wonder again, how good is this offense going to be able to do when they face a really good defense? When they force Jake Fromm to beat them? Because they're kind of similar to Ohio State. It's just been easy for them on offense because they've just been better than the teams that they've played. When they get into a really challenging game, like against Notre Dame, remember, they couldn't do a whole lot offensively in that game, but their defense was good enough to get them the win. So that's something that I'm a little cautious on with Georgia. I'm not worried at all about the offense for LSU. They put up 42 points against a very good Group of 5 team in Utah State. This, to me, is still the best team in the SEC right now. Doesn't mean I'm going to pick them to win the SEC. As I just said, I think Alabama is probably still going to win the West and win the SEC championship. But LSU, they got it going offensively. Defense played well in this game. They've had some injuries. They're going to get some guys back healthy, and I think that defense is going to be ready to go against Florida this Saturday. Again, they are number 1. What do you like? What do you not like? Let me know down in the comments below. Give me your power rankings. How would you rank these teams? Again, feel free to let your voice be heard down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel.